Welcome, writers. Today I have Ted Hawks with me. Welcome, Ted.
Thanks. Great to be here, Sarah.
And let me introduce our writers to you just a little bit more. Ted is a writer, teacher, and creative coach from Chicago. His writing work spans the LGBTQ literary fiction, YA, murder mystery, and science fiction. You kind of have a lot of genres there, don't you?
Yeah, all over the place.
That's fantastic. I love it. Passionate about fostering creativity, he strives to help others unleash their imaginative potential and confidently tell their authentic stories. So, welcome again, Ted. And I love that you have all this different genre experience.
Yeah, I probably should focus at some point, but I just like dabbling a little bit. So
No, I think some of us are meant to be broad. I truly do believe that. Okay. But today, Ted is going to talk with us more specifically about mystery, because this is a fascinating genre to talk about. And maybe, we tend to talk about mystery maybe in combination with thrillers and suspense novels and all those tend to get lumped together. So just so that we can establish maybe some ground here for the writers who are with us, how are we going to define a mystery, the mystery genre?
yeah, it's a great question because, like you said, Sarah, the Venn diagram overlaps so heavily, especially in kind of modern crime fiction. But one of the definitions I really like is that murder mystery or mystery fiction, it has a protagonist who's pursuing the solution to a crime or mystery, and a thriller is a protagonist who's fighting against an antagonistic force, whether that's like a
Mm,
company or a person. But I
mhm.
think that's a really nice distinction and one that I've used in my own work too. So
Yeah, I love that you brought up crime fiction too, because now we're like even slicing and dicing
yeah.
even further. It can be so gray and murky. So writers, if you get confused about this, it's okay. You're in good company because there are a lot of different overlaps. So what is it about mystery that you enjoy? I know you've written mystery and then you coach it. What is it about the genre that you enjoy working with?
I just love it so much because I always think of it as kind of a chess game against like the writer, because you're trying to figure out, get to the solution before they give it to you, right? And Agatha Christie is one of my favorites, and just reading some of her like just brilliant endings, the murder of Roger Ackroyd and Murder on the Orient Express, those like really huge twists. And I know
Yeah.
you've been going to talk about twists too,
Yeah, yeah.
in this as well. But one of the things I kind of tend towards the cozy, because two of the things that I absolutely love in the genre are one, character, because I think especially in cozy you can bring sort of a big character type and play with the nuances and give them a secret that they'll take into the work that you have to unearth. And I really love that. My characters are usually big, broad stroke characters, a lot of fun with very distinct voices. And then I also just love the setting aspect. Often murder mysteries, especially on the cozy side, will
Yeah.
have a mansion, a creepy place, or a little cottage or rural environment. So I love like building that sort of scenery and setting for folks. So those are the two of the big reasons.
Yeah. No, I love that you mentioned the character because I do think mystery is a really interesting genre in that we will see a series centered around like the amateur sleuth or
Mhm.
whoever is doing stuff. And what's so interesting is that I mean you can read them in the order in which they are released, but sometimes you can even read them out of order because you're just getting this satisfying book arc, and then I can maybe even skip ahead to
Yeah.
like book number 8 if book number 7 is out at the library and I can't get access to it. I might be able to hop over and still enjoy the read, so they don't necessarily have to be sequential. And I don't know, I think that's something that sets mystery apart perhaps from the other genres in the adult fiction space.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to think about it. I never really thought about that
Yeah.
before, but yeah, often it's very much sort of a reboot reset. Every new
Yeah.
series, you have new characters, new setting, new place, and you get to kind of just go in and have fun. But yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, well, and it would say like I better have it be a good character if they're going to come
Yeah,
back,
right.
right? Nobody wants to follow a boring character over the series of 10 books.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I was thinking about too is what's fun about sort of like some of the classic, detectives, like I mean Miss Marple and Sherlock Holmes is they don't have that like deep tragic backstory that we
Yeah.
expect kind of in modern fiction, but they're just sort of like a weird person who does really great job solving crime, and you get to kind of go along with them. So it's kind of a cool sort of, trend away from like kind of what we're used to in terms of our protagonist.
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose if you're someone who enjoys developing secondary characters, what a great way to do it, because every
Yeah,
book you get to like bring on a new cast, perhaps.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so like these are maybe some good things about working in the genre. What do you find either challenging or frustrating? I mean, we know every genre has got its like, maybe easy things and hard things. So what about mystery do you think is particularly challenging?
I think what's really hard in both writing and coaching in mystery is, in the endless like plotter pantser debate, like you really have got to plot a mystery. Like it really has to be tight. Everything has to lead to the solution. And and oftentimes, as we write, like things just kind of go haywire. Characters do what they want, plots do what they want, things kind of go in different ways. So really corralling it and making sure you have a good idea of the architecture, where the clues are, where the red herrings are, and the precision of that in the and the mystery genre is really tough.
Yeah.
And it's you got to be really sort of a big fan of details to get it to work well.
Yeah, yeah. I've had several people tell me I really should be more involved in mystery because I'm somewhat left brains
Yeah.
coming from math, and my affinity for like Sudokus and jigsaw puzzles and things like this would lend itself well probably, but I'm such a scaredy cat.
Oh,
So the cozies I enjoy. I have read quite a few cozies, but it's sometimes hard to know like unless there's like a very clear cover where I'm like that probably not going to take me somewhere I want to go. It can be hard sometimes to distinguish, and I just am such a scaredy cat.
oh, yeah, yeah. Just stay cozy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the way to go.
Okay. So we've got this mystery work that you've done. Do you want to talk a bit about you've got a mystery series that you've been putting forth. Do you want to talk just maybe a little bit about that?
Yeah, and it's kind of funny too in talking about genre because the first book in the series, Beatrice, it follows an amateur detective, two amateur detectives as they kind of solve these little crimes that are going on. And the first one is, kind of classic closed house mystery, happens at a mansion. Second one is sort of an homage to Scooby-Doo. They're in this like haunted cabin out in the woods and investigating a monster mystery. And then the third one actually turned into a thriller. It was more about the antagonist and the pursuit of, this criminal in a city. So it was kind of funny to see like that progression of
Yeah.
like straight mystery into this thriller. But yeah, they're very humor forward. They have a lot of fun with the conventions of the genre, with characterization, very silly. And I kind of play with a found narrative form. So it's supposed to be this bad writer who wrote this book, and I'm kind of revising it and editing it and take the series from there. So I play a lot with the conventions in the genre. Yeah.
That's so much fun. And writers, you probably don't need any more prompting. You heard it here, Scooby-Doo. So that is super fun. Okay, but you have also written in other genres and you coach other
Yeah.
genres. And I do think that the skills that we learn, I mean, I don't know about you, but I certainly encourage my writers to read outside of the genre that they're writing. I think sometimes people become so focused on just like I write fantasy, therefore I read
Mm,
fantasy. And I think there's so much to be learned from different genres because I think they all have unique strengths that can help a writer. What do you think about mystery specifically has helped you in your other work, or maybe even vice versa?
oh yeah. So actually when I finished my first murder mystery book, I wrote a blog series about kind of what I learned, and I revisited it before we had this chat today. And there were kind of three things that stood out for me that while I learned them in the process of writing the murder mystery, I think are very applicable across the board. The first one was to, as much as possible, write every day, whether it's 20, 30 minutes. But with the murder mystery, especially, what I found is I was writing after work, and sometimes it'd be 3, 4 days a week between writing sessions, and I would forget the characters, their voices, like what had happened, what clues I was. So I was in my spreadsheets, I was on my outline, like just to get started into the work. So I always recommend to start and write as much as you can every day. Even if it's 10 minutes, to just kind of keep the world and the characters and the voices in your head. Um, the second one was just about being flexible and being gracious to yourself as you write. Um, because when I started the first book, I was like, Sarah, you probably appreciate this. I had my like outline, I had my spreadsheets, and I was like, this is easy. I'm just gonna put this all down. And it just went off the rails like chapter 2. I have like up to like draft 4 of my outline, like, and I got so in my head about everything. I like couldn't even figure out what I was doing. So I sent it to a beta reader and he's like, oh, it's fun, but I have no idea how you get to the end the way you do. So if you're listening to this and you don't think you can write a murder mystery, I did it. So trust that you can pull it off. And it was just like learning to be gracious with myself and be flexible and adapt. I kind of went from like an outline of the whole book to just kind of a rolling 3 chapter
Mm,
outline just to kind of keep myself on track, but a lot of flexibility in what happened. So that was another big takeaway I had
yeah.
in terms of the process. And the last one is very closely tied to that. And as I was writing forward, just to kind of consider failure as part of the process and not an outcome. Like you will hit those walls, you'll have no idea what's going on and have to send it to a beta reader just to get like the recalibration. But that's part of the process, and we all go through that, and it's getting that feedback, getting that new perspective, jumping back in and making those changes. So those were like the three biggest I took away from that first experience.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's gotten a little easier in some ways as I wrote the other two. But each one is a different beast that had to be tamed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So when you wrote this mystery series, was it your first time writing a series, or had you written series in other genres as well?
No, it was the first series, and when I
Yeah.
wrote the book, the first book, I didn't plan it for it to be a series, but then
Oh, interesting.
it sort of evolved from the first one.
Yeah. So that's maybe something new too. If you
Yes.
ended up pulling it out into that's a lot of fun. I'm glad that you mentioned the flexibility. I am someone who tends to be more of an outliner. But I had tried something a couple years ago because I thought, I'm gonna start with a simple outline. But you and I are both associated with Author Accelerator, so it was an inside outline.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then I'm going to make it a really big inside outline. And then I'm going to outline each chapter with like micro beats or whatever. And about maybe like 5 chapters in, I was like, this is not working for me. And I had to stop and just go back to like my not quite the simple one. It was a fuller outline, and it's actually in a spreadsheet now. But having it felt like it gave me a little bit more
Mm.
flexibility in the writing process than like so it's interesting because I really thought that the super detailed outline was going to be the ticket for me, and it proved to be the opposite.
That's so. And when I sat down with my super detailed outline, it was like chapter 2 that it was off the rails. I was
Yeah.
like, oh no, what am I gonna do?
Well, at least you didn't like throw your hands in the air and give up all hope and just like say, forget it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to keep going. So, that's good to you too. So, all right. How can our writers here connect with you online? I want to make sure people can find you. We'll have links to all the stuff, but is there a place you like to hang out?
Yes, that for book coaching, especially my website, tedhawks.com. And then I'm on Instagram at Ted Writes Stuff as well. And that's more of my like personal work and
Yeah.
and me posting about writing. But my website, you'll find all my coaching information and links to some materials that I have. So
Yeah, very good. Is there any particular types of books that you especially love to work with writers?
oh, I love thriller, love mystery.
Yeah.
I'm working with a sci-fi client now, which I really enjoy. I didn't know if that would be a good fit, but I've really loved that as well. So yeah, I would say those 3 genres are my
Yeah.
my, my bread and butter.
Very, very cool. Well, Ted, I just want to thank you for your time. And writers, check out Ted's books, and we'll have links to all the things so that you can find Ted and ask him questions about mysteries.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. This was so much fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy
This
to
was
talk.
great. This was great. Thank you so much for your time. All right, writers, we will see you later. Thanks for joining us. Bye.